Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Lights Camera Discussion podcast. My name is Massey903, and as always, I'm joined by co-hosts and dirty little sinners, Collie and Todd. Guys, how we doing?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. Todd, you all right?
Yeah, better for that. I anticipate the best ones yet every single time, and they just, they keep getting better.
Deliver. Good, good. I didn't do tongue flick, so I do apologize, but hey,
That's a
better than
shame.
nothing. Yeah. I'll leave that for the proper special
I
ones.
was going to say, yeah, just leave that to Massey's TikTok.
Exactly. The alphabet of animals. Yeah, I'll leave it for that. But guys, we are back today to talk about Mr. Ryan Coogler, which was my choice. So let's just give you a bit of a bio about Mr. Coogler. So Ryan Coogler is an American filmmaker and producer from Oakland, California, known for working with frequent collaborator Michael B. Jordan and for telling his stories through the lens of Black culture. His films have been highly critically acclaimed, most recently at the 97th Oscars ceremony. As well as directing his films, he also takes on the role as a writer, ensuring his full creative vision is in his hands.
98th Oscars, but it's fine.
That's what I said. So this one's going to be split into a couple of parts. There's 5 films we're going to cover, so we're going to do 2 and 3 just for the way it sort of works. But let's get straight into it. So the first film we're going to be talking about today in this first part is Fruitvale Station. So the story of Oscar Grant III, a 22-year-old Bay Area resident who crosses paths with friends, enemies, family, and strangers on the last day of 2008. I'll kick us off here with first thoughts. I'd never seen this before. This is one of the ones that, after having enjoyed Coogler's most recent works, I was really excited to go back and watch. I didn't know much about it at all, and it blew me away. I think it's a wonderful, incredible film, much more grounded than a lot of his other stuff, but still with that kind of Coogler, sort of, as I say, the lens to the sort of like the black family, the black culture and things, and the performance from Michael B. Jordan, which we'll get onto as well, is a real standout. But yeah, I was totally surprised by this film. Collie, what were your thoughts on Fruitvale Station? Have you seen this before?
I'd seen it once prior to us opting to start covering or looking into Coogler's films. Yeah, super powerful. Obviously, it was the actual incident itself with Oscar Grant was an early kind of kickoff of the Black Lives Matter movement, etc., and the kind of discourse in America about the way that cops treat minorities, especially black people. I know that there was stuff in the 90s and that to do with that as well, but certainly in terms of our generation, it was a massive inciter into that, and it's just interesting. I know we'll talk more about it, but it was obviously a really personal thing for Coogler to tell. Like, him and Oscar Grant were very close in age. They were born like within a couple of months of each other, I think it was. So yeah, just a powerful film, but I do quite enjoy the way that he didn't subvert it so much, but he didn't make Oscar Grant into a symbol as part of the film. He still made him, he was like an actual character, and he had all these interactions and stuff. And unfortunately, he's became this symbol for the movement in terms of, unfortunately the incident happened. But I think Coogler does it with kind of a grace, and it's not as on the nose as it potentially could have been.
Yeah, totally. Todd?
Yeah, so it's a rewatch for me. I've only watched it once before. I just think across the board, the performances, the way that the story sort of unfolds, is so well done. And like you say, it's not over the top. It's understated. It feels like you're seeing real characters in their lives, and I think obviously we'll get on to not best scenes, but the way that it plays out. You feel that realism. You feel like you're there with those characters. And Michael B. Jordan does a phenomenal job. I know we'll obviously get to him shortly, but it's just a real testament to how well he can do in a film so early on in his career as well.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I mean, let's just get straight into Michael B. Jordan. As you say, for him to make, it's a real person. Obviously, he's playing, but it never feels. To me, it never feels like a character on the screen. It always feels like a real person the whole time. He's got his flaws. He's got his, things that he does well. He's like, he's fully rounded, and I'm sure a lot of that has come from the preparation that Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler obviously put into the film, and after speaking to Oscar Grant's family, etc. But yeah, for me, for it to feel so real and authentic as well, again, it's just a massive testament to both the filmmaker and to Michael B. Jordan for the actual performance of him. It's you feel so kind of you almost live in a day in his shoes, aren't you? And when it comes to that, the final sort of bits and pieces, when obviously, spoiler, he does get killed and stuff in such a brutal way. You really, really feel for him, and especially with like his last words, and the scene when he's dying, is so powerful because of what we've seen of him beforehand. Collie, what were your thoughts on Michael B. Jordan?
I thought he was amazing, and it's interesting that Coogler had him in mind to play Oscar Grant from the early inception and the early thinking behind making the film. Well, if this came out in the early 2010s, I think I would have seen him in The Wire and stuff at this point. Okay. Obviously, I didn't see this till years later, and I'd seen him in Black Panther and that. But yeah, just a really young, talented actor, and it's interesting as well that him and Coogler are almost ages with each other as well. But one's like, obviously Coogler uses Michael B. Jordan as his muse, as we talk about him in every film today. But yeah, just a powerful performance, really grounded. His interactions with everybody seemed real, and that comes from whether it's his on-off girlfriend or his daughter or his mom or even the lady in the shop and stuff like that. Just was the performance was warm at a lot of times, and obviously like when he's talking throughout the film to how he wants to all these New Year's resolutions, doesn't want to sell drugs anymore, tries to get his job back and stuff like that. You can just kind of see that it's a guy who's had his issues. Obviously, you see him in prison and kind of the fallout at the end of the film, the fight on the trains to do with his time in prison and that. So he's had an up and down past, but the way that he's portrayed in the film and wrote in the film is that he's wanting to, take this new year and take these new opportunities and move forward and try and be a better person for his daughter more than anybody and his mum.
Mm-hmm. It's quite ironic, or not ironic, but almost symbolic, really, that it's New Year that this all happens, isn't it? Like it's the sort of like the fresh start and stuff, and then obviously it doesn't go as planned. Todd, thoughts on Michael B. Jordan?
Yeah, just I mean, echoing everything that you've said, but I think it does. Coogler does such a good job, and then Michael B. Jordan as well, in not making him this sort of angelic, like a saint as such, and trying to make you feel sorry for him because it's like, oh my God, look at how horrible it was for. He's a real person. He's played real by Michael B. Jordan, and I think that adds to it. I think if you play him and if you write Oscar as being this sort of like holier than thou, look at what happened to this wonderful human being who's never done anything wrong in his life and never gets anything wrong. Like, we see him have his flaws throughout the whole film. I think that was a massive part of it for me. I just like the quieter moments as well from Michael B. Jordan, like before the dog dies, like when he sees the dog, on the street and stuff, and he's like messing around with it, and the way that he talks and respects the dog in the same way that he talks to people. Like, it's like he's a good guy. Yes, he's made some mistakes. He's trying to get better. But even in that last scene where he's trying to tell everybody, he knows. Obviously, he's on parole. He knows he's, he has to keep his head on his shoulders type thing. He's got a family and all that kind of thing. That for me was the most devastating thing about it. Was he is a good guy. He just wants to get home and be a better person type thing, or better than he was. And I think B. Jordan nails it. And I've just had a look through his IMDb because I didn't watch The Wire until much later on. But this is like his first big. He was in Red Tails, and a different a film I've never heard of. But like, this is his first proper like prominent role in a film. From what I can see, and he's done a phenomenal job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for me as well, it's like we're talking about this because it goes, we spoke about the character and stuff and what happens to him at the end, but it's when he has been shot and there's like blood coming from his mouth, like his last words essentially are like, "I got a daughter." Like how even in his final moments, it was the thought of that he wanted to be there for his kid and stuff, and that was what really devastated me at that moment. Yeah, it was horrible to see. Colin, anything else to add? Or, your face
No,
was
just talking about the no, it's just because like I'm like, well, fuck us going through our favorite quotes then. If you're just going to go through it early doors.
Oh, sorry.
No, I think the symbology of the dog,
Yeah,
kind of mirrors what happens to Oscar later in the film. Just it's just like chilling in good health, and then all of a sudden, like a random act of violence. And Oscar can't do anything to save the dog, and nobody can do anything to save Oscar. It was just a sad mirroring of what was to come later. And that's interesting, just talking about Coogler in general, how it shows at the start the real life cell phone footage and stuff like that of what happens. And you more than likely you might know what the film's about before you go in, but even if you went in blind, the fact that it's showing you the real footage and then it shows you, it rewinds all the way back and then ends up at that point, was like really good in terms of the mirroring and the symbology of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly for me, like, and again, we're kind of going away from actors, but it's fine. But I didn't know what it was about, and seeing that footage at the start, like, kind of almost shocked me into that mindset kind of thing, which is a really, really brave, interesting decision for that. In fact, my first notes were based on a true story. Whoa, like I didn't know at all that it was that.
I said it was a dangerous. Sorry, before we move on from that opening bit, I think it's a dangerous move. Like it worked perfectly for this film, but it's such a dangerous move because then it's like, well, because I didn't know either. I didn't know about Oscar Grant until I watched this film. But I think it's dangerous because then it kind of like sucks the hope of energy out of a film, but because of the way that this is written, you're kind of building towards it, and every like hopeful line, every interaction, like that interaction with the girl in the shop where he hands his phone over and he's just like letting her crack on. It just, like you say, it hits harder and harder every single time. It's a killer.
Yeah. Was that your prop for the phone line as well? Yeah.
Yeah, that was
yeah. But it was when he hands his phone and yeah, as you say, it's such a small way of showing what kind of character he is. Moving on to someone else that obviously is a big part of this film's Octavia Spencer as his mother. Such a strong performance, and I think she's one of the few that are in it that is like a big name kind of thing, and I understand why, because it's such an important part of the performance, important part of the film. Specifically, the prison scene where she sees him kind of flip between her son and then, as I put in quotes, prison Mike.
Good.
He's not wearing the bandana, but still. But yeah, I thought her performance was such a powerful one. Like I say, with that scene and especially obviously at the end, when she has to come to terms with him having been killed. Collie, what were your thoughts on Octavia Spencer?
I thought she was brilliant. She was like 2 years removed from winning the Oscar for The Help with this, and if you read a bit of the background in the trivia, she, I think one of the investors dropped out, so she was actively working behind the scenes to make sure that there was investment still in the film. She even gave up most of her salary, if not all of it, apparently, as well. So yeah, just some of the behind the scenes stuff to help the film get made was really good. But yeah, super powerful performance. Even the interactions with her and Oscar when she's trying to convince him to get the train rather than drive, and then that's again mirrored at the end of the film when she's distraught saying that it was my fault, I told him to get the train and stuff. So yeah, just really powerful and upsetting, especially because it's a real character or a real person, sorry, that she's playing. But yeah, just as you said, one of the bigger names, if not the biggest name, probably in the film at this time. And you can just kind of see that she's that, not class above in terms of to disparage anyone else in the film, but she elevates the film by having her in it and the performance that she brings.
Definitely. Todd?
Yeah, she has to do very little as well. It's not a sort of melodramatic, even at the end where she's, absolutely devastated. The prayer where she's praying, and again, you can kind of mirror Oscar with his mum in the way that, he's talking to everybody about, like, just calm down, just stay here, we're just trying to get home. And then the way that she's leading that prayer and trying to get everybody to come together and keep them calm. Maybe I know she's obviously a woman of God and she believes that, but I think there's also that extra bit of wanting to just keep everybody's head on a swivel the same way that Oscar did in the train station. But her walking away from him in the prison, in the visitor scene where he's shouting and she's that's what I mean by like the subtlety of it, of her not crying and holding it together till she gets out of that prison, was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. And my concern then, again, which is why it was genius that they showed that bit at the beginning, was, I know obviously it was further back in time, but I was like, is this their last interaction? Is this the last time that they sort of like, well, obviously it wasn't, but that it's that concern, it breeds that worry really, really well. And that's down to her performance, 100%.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to talk about Tiva Spencer? I think we kind of touched on a lot of her stuff. Yeah. There's obviously, the sort of like friend stuff that he has that weren't exactly sort of like massive names, and like his daughter and stuff as well. Sorry, his daughter, and then also his girlfriend kind of thing as well. But I want to kind of touch on two characters that for me were not strangely cast, but interestingly cast, was the two officers, Chad Michael Murray and Kevin Durand. Like 2013. So looking back, Chad Michael Murray, we know him from like the almost like Disney-ish rom-coms of old, where he's like the heartthrob and things. But then Kevin Durand, he did things like, looking back at it, like 310 to Yuma, Wild Hogs, Smoking Aces. Like he was always like a kind of bit part character. But I thought the two cops, they're obviously they're antagonists essentially, and he's obviously the worst of the two, I would say. Well, technically the worst of the two, but in kind of like his mindset, I suppose. But they weren't like massively utilized, which I thought was an interesting point, to have two well-known actors in roles that weren't massive or didn't have much sort of screen time and stuff, but obviously the influence was there in terms of they were the catalyst to him, ceasing to exist. What were your thoughts on their casting, Collie? Was there anything that sort of stood out for you with them, or what were your thoughts?
I think having like two recognizable faces, I think, was quite not good in a way, but it kind of just brought a bit more like, oh, well, these guys must, be heavily involved in what's a way to happen in that. And you're right though, Kevin Durant especially, like he's played loads of bad guys in films, even all the way back to he's in Lost in a role for a little bit, and I think that's maybe one of the first things I seen him in. But yeah, I don't know I didn't really find anything behind the scenes, but I kind of feel, even though they were notable names, maybe not A-listers obviously, but perhaps they were casting this because they feel it was an important story to tell, even though obviously they were going to be in the quote unquote bad guy part or whatever. But yeah, I think like fair play to them for joining onto a film and with a powerful message, when they probably could have been in quote like bigger films or got paid more, maybe, because I can't imagine they got paid very much for this. So yeah, definitely an interesting choice, but I think not just from a casting angle, but from even an accepting that kind of size of role thing from them.
Definitely. Todd, anything stood out with them for you?
I just think it's always difficult. Well, I'm speaking from experience, but like I imagine it's difficult to like take on an antagonist role anyway, but to actually play an antagonist that was real and also very recent. Like it was 2009, wasn't it? It was, and this came out 2013. So you're talking a sort of a recent figure, would have been difficult. I think Kevin Durand in particular did a phenomenal job of being like awful immediately. Like, you have that hatred for him very quickly. Like you say, he's the one who is more single-minded. That, you know, is the bastard. And you can see that he almost enjoys it. But yeah, I think it's an interesting choice. Kevin Durant again for me. He's we all, like you say, we all know Chad Michael Murray. He was somebody who we sort of grew up with and was maybe a more recognisable face. Kevin Durant for me has only become recognisable in the last few years, especially with stuff like Abigail, and he was big in it was at the Planet of the Apes films.
Yeah, Kingdom.
He
Yeah,
was in and
Apes.
stuff, and like, you know, he always plays, and then he's got like the henchman sort of stuff that he always does. So yeah, I think it hit a bit harder watching this now than it probably would have in 2013 if I'd have watched it and been like, well, I don't know who that guy is, you know. But yeah, it was an interesting choice, and like I say, one thing that I think would be difficult to take on, but they did an amazing job of it, to tell the story because it needs to be told.
And I do think it was interesting as well. Again, I don't know how exact that officers and stuff were, but it was the fact that it was a kind of quieter one that pulled the trigger. That that actually it wasn't the outwardly racist sort of guy. That was the one that actually took the shot, basically. Any other actors you want to talk about? Any other characters? Happy enough with that? Okay. Anything? Any trivia, Collie, you got, or anything you want to?
So they actually filmed. Yeah, they filmed the scene of Oscar shooting at the actual Fruitvale BART station, and the original bullet hole is actually still in the floor, and that's where they actually filmed Michael B. Jordan lying on top of it and stuff like that. So I thought that was quite heavy.
Cool. It's one of those things where, like, people think about being an actor, but being this like easy sort of thing. You get paid lots of money to pretend to be someone else and stuff. But especially for someone coming from obviously that culture and things as well, surely that must be affecting. To be in that position.
And I think we'll touch on it later with the first Black Panther film. But Michael B. Jordan does tend to live and breathe his roles. After Black Panther, I've got as a bit of trivia, but I'll say it now. He goes into therapy after it quite openly because he was struggling to come away with some of the values that Killmonger kind of brought forth in playing him and stuff like that. So very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Okay. Shall we go into our ratings then, or anything else you want to? Happy enough to move on?
Yeah.
Well, categories.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, of course. I knew that. I was just making sure.
You've already spoiled one of them, so yeah.
I apologize. Okay, so favorite quote. Yeah, I mean that was mine as well. Was the I got a daughter through the gurgled blood. That was.
It's like, you shot me. I got a daughter. Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah, very profound. Collie. Same.
That was my one as well.
Sorry, Todd.
Mine was just before it. Mine were just trying to get home. Yeah, I thought we're just trying to get home. Yeah. It was that sort of, again, it's the devastation. He's not trying to cause trouble. He doesn't want there to be an issue. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Favorite scene for me, it was a store scene with getting his grandma to speak to the girl and stuff as well, and then also I kind of looked into this and I think it was almost a theatrical decision to have this, but it was like almost a catalyst for him getting killed because the same girl recognized him on the train and called out his name, and that's when the fight kind of happened and stuff as well. But yeah, I thought that scene when he was as you say, handed over his phone to the girl and just let her speak to his grandma about how to make this like seafood boil and stuff was so interesting. Collie?
And for me, it was the discussion with the web designer when they're actually trying to get into that store to go to the toilet and stuff, and he's hoping that he'd get engaged and proposed and stuff like that. I just thought that was very bittersweet, and just like, obviously, whether it was dramatical, like Coogler's just wrote that in because it never actually happened or whatever, I don't know, but I just thought that was really powerful because it was just sad because obviously hours later he was going to be dead. I
suppose it's kind of the melding of two worlds, isn't it? Like the sort of lower class and upper class kind of just being able to coexist and things, eh?
Yeah, because he was like, why are you not going to get engaged or whatever? He's like, I've got no money. He's like, well, we didn't have any money when we got engaged, but that shouldn't factor into it.
Mm-hmm. Todd?
I kept like writing them and then crossing them out and debating, but it was the scene where the lad with like the frosted hair comes onto the train, and it's like high tension. It feels like there's going to be hell on. And then they start playing the music, and everybody's just having a good time on the train. I think it's so clever to sort of create this idea of, oh, how dangerous is this? How dangerous is it? And how awful. And, you know, you're waiting for something bad to happen. I didn't know what the reason for him, you know, being taken off the train was. So you're waiting for it to happen. You get this high tension that's immediately cut by this really good time. You can see Oscar having a good time there as well. It encompassed the film for me. And again, I thought that smile from Michael B. Jordan just kind of, I don't know, it gave him just that little bit more character. There were high drama scenes. Obviously, the last scene was amazing and so impactful, but I just think that was the one that hit me.
What's the quote from? Is it 30 Reasons Why, where it's like, that smile, that damned smile, or whatever it's called?
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've never seen it. It's like a meme.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
It's like a meme that I've seen. I just thought of that when you said that smile. That damn smile. Then MVP for me, Michael B. Jordan. The whole movie hung on his performance, and it was just absolutely knocked out of the park. Collie?
Coogler for me. I mean, like, he was 26 when he filmed this.
Todd?
It was Michael B. Jordan for me. An incredible performance for so early on in his career in the lead.
Okay, and finally our ratings for this film. I gave it 4.5 stars, but I think on rewatch that could be a 5. Collie?
A 5 for me.
Todd?
Yeah, 5 for me as well.
I feel left out now. Damn. Okay.
Just rate stuff better then, you know what I mean? I feel left out, you know?
You know I can't do that. You know I cannot rate better. Right, moving on to the next film, and the final one in this part, because I was saying it's going to be a 2 and a 3. So it's Creed. The former world heavyweight champion Rocky Balboa serves as a trainer and mentor to Adonis Johnson, the son of his late friend and former rival Apollo Creed. I've seen this film before. I think, Colin, I think I watched this at yours. I think. I'm sure I had a sort of memory of this potentially, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, yeah, when I watched it the first time, I don't think I'd even seen like the Rocky, or I'd maybe just kind of watched Rocky movies once, and I remember really enjoying this, but I don't remember the kind of subtleties and the nuances to the story as a whole. So it was interesting to go back as a more mature mind, a more analytical mind, to be able to kind of dig below the punch people in the face kind of story. So yeah, it was really good to go back to this, and there's loads and loads and loads of layers to this film. I really enjoyed it. What was that face for there, Colin, when I was saying about mature mind? And
But it's just, you're definitely not more mature, are you?
more mature than I was. You ought to give it
I don't think so.
that. Fair. Colin, thoughts on Creed?
Yeah, like I like this film from when I first seen it, and it's just got better and better. Even bumped up my rating a little bit the last time I watched it for this. I've always loved the Rocky series. Like, watched it from very, very young. And if you forget about number 5 and number 6 and just treat this as a direct sequel to 4, then you're grand.
Todd?
Yeah, it's a rewatch, and I love the Rocky films. I don't watch them as much as I probably should. Like, they are classics for a reason. This could have been dog shit. This could have been another 5, another 6. It could have just been sort of thrown together and cashed in on. And I think it did the legacy great, but I also think it's a phenomenal film. Like, just a phenomenal sports film on its own merit without being part of a franchise. Yeah, great film.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I mean, let's talk about Michael B. Jordan. He's obviously, again, a lead performance in a Coogler film. I love the way that he has this sort of... It's almost resentment towards his father, but it's also kind of like... To me, it felt like almost a bit like how he's not... He doesn't want to be part of the name because he doesn't want it to be the thing that lets him... Like, almost nepotism, basically. But then also, I feel like there's like that part of he doesn't know if he's ever going to be good enough to fit that that name as well. So it's like the double-edged sword, which I really loved that sort of the way that he played that. His physicality as well, especially in obviously the boxing choreography and stuff as well, is incredible. It looks real. I know a lot of it, or there's a lot to be said about Coogler's direction of it as well, because there's a lot of ways that they move the camera that makes things feel proper real and you know that you're actually getting punched with him as well. But yeah, like his movement and his choreography for that is fantastic. And the more emotional moments, the more sort of like loving times he has with Tessa Thompson as well, and how their relationship grows, I think is so natural, and just from their first meeting all the way through until obviously their kind of Adrian moment at the end in the ring is such a great performance from him. It all feels absolutely natural, and you totally empathize with him and what he's going through, and it's a really sort of uplifting performance. It made me feel like total pumped up. Collie, thoughts on Michael B. Jordan?
I thought he's brilliant in this, and even like not just to talk specifically about him, but just talk about Adonis's journey. I thought the scene right at the beginning where he's the young boy in the facility, and Apollo's wife comes to visit him, and he just thinks she's another worker, blah blah blah, and he's like, I didn't have a dad, and she's like, yeah, you did, and then it's like, oh, what's his name or whatever, and then it just goes silent, and then it comes up with Creed as the title. I thought that was such a cool choice. But yeah, he's like Michael B. Jordan's performance as Donnie, like he's got this bitterness towards his dad, but also just doesn't want to be in his shadow, but wants to honor him as a kind of, that's what he comes at the last bit with the discussion with Rocky about, you know, why does he want to do this and stuff. That's kind of a theme throughout it. Why is he fighting? Yeah, just super powerful performance. Even just from a physicality, he put on like 20 odd pounds of muscle and stuff. He looks unbelievable in it, I think. And it's an interesting kind of thing when you look at him versus Conlon at the end of the fight. Like Conlon is an actual real life fighter or whatever, but his physique looks completely different to Michael B. Jordan. So yeah, from a physical angle, he obviously put a lot of work into this, but his interactions, whether it be with Stallone or whether it be with Bianca or anything like that throughout the film, just really good character building. And obviously there's sequels after this, but strictly speaking about this one in particular, I think he's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Todd?
Yeah, it's the physicality that's the big thing. From Fruitvale, you can see how good he is. You can see that he can play that character, but the fighting scenes are out of this world. And like you say, it is a lot down to the direction, but it is down to his physique. It is down to the way that he handles them, and also the way that he gets battered and sort of embodies that batter, like being battered, not just with the prosthetics and stuff. It works really well. I love the interaction with Rocky in particular. I think he's, you know, him and Tessa Thompson, and Tessa Thompson, somebody who I rate really highly. But the interactions between him and Rocky are out of this world. It's that idea of testing the water with each other, and what does the one really want from the other one, and you get that feeling the entire time. It just does a phenomenal job, and it's again, I think this might have been the first film that I saw Michael B. Jordan in. Full stop, actually, full stop, and again, I went in skeptical, you know, kind of, do we really care about Creed's son? Is that something that we need? And he's, you know, he is Adonis Creed. He's sort of taken on that role that would be iconic enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to obviously the guy that started it all off for the Rocky franchise. It's Sylvester Stallone. Actually nominated for an Oscar for an actor supported role in 2016 awards was Sylvester Stallone. His performance is incredible. Like that to me is like, I think people underestimate Stallone for what the choices that he maybe made in his career. You know, as maybe like a meathead or whatever. But you forget that he like he is Rocky, and he started this whole thing. I think he was Oscar nominated, wasn't he, for writing Rocky? Is that right as well? So like he's a smart guy. He knows exactly what the character is and things as well. Being able to see him almost embody the character as himself as well in this film is great, and his sort of the way that Rocky almost evolves into the Mickey role, as the trainer guy for Creed is a fantastic kind of full circle moment for Sylvester Stallone and for Rocky. I think like it just reminds me as to when Sylvester Stallone like turns it on, like he can be such an incredible actor, and I loved his performance as Rocky. It was so powerful, so moving, and a real passing the torch moment as well, which I absolutely adore this character in here. Collie, thoughts on Stallone?
Yeah, like you said at the beginning there, like he's the guy who started it all, and I think he's one of maybe, I think it was 3 or 4 guys, I can't remember the entire list, but that have been nominated for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor for playing the same role.
Oh wow!
And obviously it was like 40 years apart as well. An interesting tidbit about that trivia is that Burgess Meredith, who played Mickey in the original Rocky, Stallone is the same age as him in this film, which is nuts. Like Burgess Meredith looked about 300 years old, and obviously Sly like looks old now as well. But no, I thought his performance was so good in this. Like, I think it helped the fact that he kind of handed the reins over to Coogler. And again, like talking about Coogler's age, he was only 28 or something like that when he made this his second film or something like that. But this was kind of in the era that guys would make one smaller film and then get given a franchise film, like Colin Trevorrow or like Gareth Edwards or something like that. They would get bumped into like Star Wars or Jurassic Park and stuff. So it was definitely a thing that was happening, but I think it was still a massive risk, especially like what Todd says there of, do we really need to hear this story? Do we really need to see this story? But yeah, I thought Stallone was great. Obviously, tragically, his son died. I think it was around pre-production of this. Sage, I think's his name. And the photo of that Rocky has of his son, that when there's that scene with him and Adonis talking about his being estranged from his son and stuff like that, that's actually the photo of Sylvester and Sage. So that was obviously real life coming to it, and I don't think Stallone wanted to do it, but I think Coogler really pushed for it because he felt it would be impactful, and it was. And yeah, just this kind of step back role with Stallone in this, not being the main character, his hesitant kind of didn't want to train Adonis at first to that full circle moment, and like we'll talk about it later on, but the final scene and the final fight and the final conversations that they're having are super powerful. I won't go into detail about a couple of other scenes because there's loads of scenes in this that might be your favorites, but yeah, just a really great performance, and probably his best performance at this time for like, I don't know, 30 years or whatever since Copland, in terms of actual acting, because you could probably count like films that he's actually good as an actor. You know, bless him, I love him, like, don't get me wrong, but there's only a handful of films that he really gets to show his chops, and this is definitely one of them, and especially with how old he was at the time and how far it was from the original character, you know, from Rocky 1. I thought it was really, really kudos to him.
Mm-hmm. And
you know, and he really should have won the Oscar. I know we're like, Mark Rylance won it or whatever for Bridge of Spies. Like, what? Wow. No, like, don't get me wrong, it's a good performance, but I just think like as a legacy. No, I don't know. We've talked about legacy ones, but I think this would be one of the rare ones that would have been deserved, and like a correct recognition of it.
Yep. I was going to make a wee joke about Expendables there, but maybe after talking about the legacy thing, then
just don't.
Yeah. Todd, thoughts on Stallone?
Yeah, it's what Collie said. It's shown that he's the actor. It's shown that he can do it, and that he always has been able to do it. Because, you know, it's fine being the big action guy. It's fine being the sort of, you know, the man who has the gun, and running away with that. That's great. He's made a career.
The funniest thing is that could be a title of one of his movies, like during that sort of time, isn't it?
100%. Talk about that Johnny Cage, but like he could have been in those sort of films. Like, but he has the emotional beats, and again, it's not sort of overdone. It's, you know, we're not ringing out. Even the sort of, I mean, the cancer diagnosis and him battling with doing the treatment, not doing the treatment, even sat in the chair getting the chemo, and talking with Michael B. Jordan, talking with Adonis, was just so well done. And again, I think it's sort of unexpected. I know how good Sly is, and I know how good he can be, but like you say, it's probably it's his best acting performance in a long time. I don't think you expect it from him. I think you expect him to sort of mumble through a few lines, maybe, you know, give it an old quote or whatever. And, you know, he did so much more. And I think it's down, a lot of this film's success is down to him playing that role, and being that trainer to Adonis.
Moving on to sort of like the third one in the trifecta of like the sort of the main characters is Tessa Thompson as Bianca. Very interesting choice to have her be partially deaf and be a musician as well. It kind of almost sort of underlines the whole underdog, or like, you know, having to fight for your sort of like life almost, and your sort of career and your profession, and to get out there, or to fight for what you sort of like really love, kind of thing. I really enjoyed her performance. I thought she was like the really interesting grounding to Michael B. Jordan's kind of a bit more not bombastic, but a bit more kind of like character, if that makes sense, like more like a movie character as opposed to like a real person. She was like almost grounding to that. What do you think of her, Collie, as that sort of character?
I thought she was really, really good, and exactly what you were saying. I think she's a far more rounded and developed character than, like, no offense to Adrian or Talia Shire back in the day, but every film just used to be her being like, "No, Rocky, don't do it," kind of thing, and he's like, "Well, thanks, I'm going to be fighting this guy. I really could have used your encouragement or whatever." Especially in Rocky 4 of all films. Stand at the top of the stairs saying you can't win. I'm like, well, I'm away to Russia though, so bye. Like, but no, I thought she was a lot more. I thought a lot more involved and a bit more of a real character, like you say. She has her own struggles, her own things to do. Yeah, and obviously she was just up and coming at the time. She hadn't done Ragnarok or anything like that. I don't think or maybe she was away to do Ragnarok. That was maybe the next year. It's around about that time anyway, and I think Annihilation was coming, you know, a little bit after that and stuff. So she was still, you know, an up and coming actress. And yeah, she did really good. I thought her chemistry with Michael B was really good. I thought her chemistry, like, around the dinner table with Stallone was good as well. And he's like, "Oh, you're always welcome to come around and cook and stuff." Yeah, I thought she was a really, like, what?
It's just telling the people character, you can come around and cook if you want. So.
Yeah, but like the when she's shouting up to him, when she's saying, "I didn't know or you didn't tell me your uncle was Rocky," and stuff like that, and he just didn't think to mention it or anything. And it's such a, back to the Rocky thing. He's such a kind of kind character who doesn't know he's being kind, or he just says stuff to be nice, and like, it just. I don't want to say simple because he's not simple, but he's punchy. He's described as punchy throughout the early films and stuff as well, and he's just wears his heart on his sleeve, kind of thing. And I think him and Bianca have that nice relationship all the way to when it's the scene where, like, sorry if this is one of your favorite ones, but there's so many other better ones that it shouldn't be, but it's when he goes round to Donnie's room the night before the fight or whatever, and he's like sitting beside him, and he keeps looking over to the door, and he's just like, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "I don't know, do you hear something?" or whatever. Even that kind of fun relationship between the obviously Bianca and Rocky, doing that kind of jokey bit on Donnie, was really good. But yeah, I thought she was solid. That
was my favorite scene, by the way. So cheers, we're
oh,
even
tough
now.
Shit.
Okay, yeah.
Tough shit.
Todd?
You better stick to that bit, by the way. When we do best scene, you don't get another choice now.
Okay, I was joking. I was joking. Todd?
Yeah, I think she's phenomenal. I think I really rate her. I think she's one of those people who's a little bit more overlooked at times, especially with Sorry to Bother You, a role and all that kind of thing. I think in this, the autonomy that she has is the best bit about her. That she has this sort of, like, there's no expectation on the character, and that's down to her performance. You know, she has that sort of almost like she's aloof to the whole thing. It's like, I don't need you, sort of thing. That it's an equal partnership. But yeah, I thought she was excellent. I think her Adrian moment is a really good one as well. I think it works well that it's enough of a callback, but she's her own character. But I like I said, I think she's a phenomenal actress, and I think she's only going to go strength to strength.
I want to touch on the sort of the way they used real boxers, obviously as opponents and other boxers as well. Andre Ward and Tony Bell used Pretty Boy Conlon. What I would say, they're not actors. There's moments where, like, certainly at the press conference stuff like that as well, you can tell Tony Bell used acting. But what I would say is for the fight scenes, it really helps having like a real boxer. And I think as well, I don't know if this is trivia or anything you want to touch on, Collie, but I'm pretty sure like Tony Bell, you said in interviews and stuff that Michael B. Jordan actually wanted him to punch him, so like it felt like real and things as well, which is a bit of a mental move, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, as I say, that side of things maybe not quite, but I certainly think it helped with the actual fight scenes, choreography. They know what it feels like. They know how to move in an actual ring, where in a lot of like fight movies, I'm looking at like Don't Back Down or whatever it was called, that MMA one and stuff. The fight scenes can look over the top, and you can tell they're not actually hitting each other and stuff as well. But yeah, I thought that they did a good job physically wise, maybe not the acting side of things. What were your thoughts, Collie, on maybe Tony Bell obviously being the main sort of antagonist to Michael Jordan, but Audrey Ward as well as the sort of fighter that was going to fight him but then gets out of the fight?
I thought Bell, I think he was kind of utilized perfectly. I think that kind of, especially that era, that was like Conor McGregor kind of UFC shit talking. So I think that was kind of bled into the film in that regard. And Bellew knows how to do that from his boxing career. So the kind of jabs about like being the false creed and stuff, I think Coogler wrote enough for him to be a villain per se, but I personally don't think it exposed him as that being that bad or rude or anything like that. I think it was just enough. And Andre Ward had even less to do as an actor, but from the physicality of and the legitness of having a real boxer in the ring with him, it did kind of elevate the physical standing when they're actually filming those scenes. I don't know. I didn't check. Is the guy Leo? Is he a real boxer or is he an actor? The one that he has the 2-round fight with in the middle of the film. I can check that in a second. I'm good. Okay, because I'm going to correct you on something anyway. The Bellew thing, he might have said that in an interview, but Bill Simmons had Michael B. Jordan for an interview around this time, and it was actually Stallone told Michael B. Jordan it's a rite of passage on these films that you have to take a real punch, and it's when he gets knocked out in the 11th round or whatever round it is in the final fight, and then obviously there's that scene where he's like having all the flashbacks of everybody. And then he sees his dad at the end and he wakes up. I thought that was an amazing scene in general, just to talk about it. But it's that, and there's Michael B. Jordan had on his phone and he showed Bill Simmons him actually getting properly knocked out by taking that hit. We can try and maybe tweet out, or even just you two look it up. He gets absolutely smoked in it, and he legit gets knocked out. It's brutal. Jeez. But that was like Stallone was like, I took them. Carl Weathers took them. What you call it? Even Drago, like all the guys, Mr. T, all that kind of stuff. They all took at least one legit hit, and he was like, "It's a rite of passage kind of thing." And Michael B. Jordan was like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it." But it looks so real in the film because it was real.
Wow. Yeah, I'll definitely have to find that. Absolutely.
And just on the Leo thing, obviously he didn't have too much to do, but I thought him and his dad were really good. His dad, especially with his kind of goading Rocky and Michael or Donnie to like get into the fight, and then that kind of scene where he confronts him just before the fight, being like, I know he's Creed, we could have made a lot more money like this, blah blah blah. And he's a British actor as well. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the guy who plays Leo's dad's English, I think.
Oh, is he? Is that the Chechen from Dark Knight? Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was British. So Todd, tell us about the boxers.
Okay. So when I first watched it, it really, like, Tony Bellew took me out of it, especially that bit in Goodison Park, which is I remember that straight away. Which should have been easy for him. That promo stuff is something that he does regularly.
That's his bread and butter, I would say.
That is a phrase that I would use, actually, yeah. Which probably frustrated me slightly. But I think he eased into it. The further into the film you got, the better and more convincing Bellew became, especially during the last fight, where he's throwing those jibes and stuff and like having a go. Obviously, I think the physicality stuff will have helped. I think the actual boxing will have helped him be more energetic and be more in the moment. I think it's class that he's in it. I love that you've got him in. I think it's a big moment for him, and I think it feels good that it's an American film, this big Hollywood thing, and we've got this Scouse lad. And do you know what as well? A lot of the time you'll find like people dull accents down a little bit. Tony Bellew does not know how to dull his accent down. That is thick Scouse if ever I've heard it. But yeah, I thought he did a cracking job for what he was asked for. But obviously don't give up I know he has given up his day job and he's retired now, but not a career in acting ahead of him.
Fair enough. Anyone else you want to talk about, guys? Or I think we kind of covered.
I don't want to do your whole thing, Massey, when you're like, oh, my MVP is the guy who is in charge of catering or something like that. But Maurice Alberti, the cinematographer, who did Aronofsky's The Wrestler, maybe 7 or 8 years before this or whatever. I just thought she should have got a shout or deserves a shout out because of the 2-minute scene with that fight with Leo in the middle of the film. Like how it's one take. They did like 13 takes of it or something like that, and they ended up using the 11th one, I think it was. But I just thought that was worth shouting out. I think the film all like looks really good throughout it. Even just the training montage kind of stuff where Donnie in the streets of Philly and that it was a homage to the original without being like a shot for shot kind of remake kind of thing. So I thought she just deserved a mention.
Definitely. And I would also like to mention the catering assistant.
Shut up.
Okay. Well, we can go into our categories then if we're happy enough with that. Yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. For quote then. I'll go first for this one. It's a bit of a longer one, but you guys may know what it is. It's basically in the final round when Rocky's speaking to Adonis, and it's Rocky says, "Look at me. I never got a chance to thank Apollo for helping me out after Mickey died, but it's nothing compared to what you've done. You taught me how to fight again, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to fight this thing. But if I fight, I want you to fight too. I want you to go across the ring and knock that son of a bitch down. Can you do it? Say it." And Adonis says, "I'm going to knock that son of a bitch down. Rocky, I know you are. You know why? Because you're a Creed, and I love you, kid." Brilliant.
Fantastic stuff.
Collie?
Mine's is just a kind of one step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time. That's kind of the motif throughout the film. It's just kind of emblematic of Donnie's journey, I think. You just see he's literally like rolling with the punches throughout his life.
Literally. Todd?
Mine was Rocky. You can't learn anything when you're talking. That's a fact of life. As long as you're talking, you're not listening. I thought that was fucking brilliant. I thought it was genius.
Absolutely. The favorite scene, so for me it was a training montage, finishing up with the with Creed outside Rocky's like where Rocky's at the window and the bike's like flying around him and this score is going and it's like goosebumps and I was punching like just everything in my house and stuff.
I don't think that's a very effective punch technique, to be honest, but
yeah, I like that.
It's like Donald Trump dance.
I was just about to say it's the DJT.
Collie?
For me, it was the pep talk that you quoted, but like obviously the lines of the dialogue are really amazing in it. But I love the fact that they held off using the Rocky theme "Gonna Fly Now" until Donnie stands up right at the end of that last round. They could have used it a lot earlier, but it got hinted at. Creed had his own like theme. And then after that conversation, he says, "I love you, kid," and he stands up and the Rocky music kicks in. I think that was just perfect.
Mm-hmm. There was moments as well that I noticed that for They're Gonna Fly Now, there was like the slow piano when he was like getting diagnosed with cancer and stuff like that as well, that was playing it and things. And as you say, it was like hinted at throughout the whole thing.
Because that's Rocky's theme, and then Creed had his own theme that they'd wrote for this film, and they kind of just built, and then they kind of just brought them both together for that last round.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Todd?
It's the second round of the Conlan fight. So after he's been sort of beaten and has to, get his way through it, when he starts coming back, that sort of again that build up and it was very much that punch in the air, punching everything in the house. Yeah, it was that true sports film moment for me. I mean, you could the whole last fight, the whole final fight was just. And the way that it sort of dips in and out, where at one point the sound, you lose all sound, the ref just isn't in the ring anymore, the lights are dimmed, and it's just them two beating the shit out of each other, and like every thud is of the punches. But for me, that second round was just breathtaking. I like goosebumps sort of stuff.
Absolutely. And then finally, MVP for me, it's Stallone. I just think he was unbelievable, and we spoke about his performance. I say, Collie, probably a legacy Oscar would have been more than what he deserves. I thought it was fantastic. Collie,
he was my choice, and just on the Oscar thing, he won. I think it was the Golden Globe for this.
Wow. Okay.
Came out, gave a really big speech thanking everybody. Didn't thank Coogler and didn't thank Michael B. Jordan. And then had to come back out during a commercial break and apologize and thank them. But that's why some people are like, I think that maybe cost him the Oscar because of the optics of not thanking the guys that had reignited your franchise that had died in the early 90s because of Rocky V.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you can kind of understand if someone was like properly like, the adrenaline must be through the roof when you're getting told you've won something for something you've done things, and it can be easy to forget. I
don't think he'd won any like precursors. So
yeah.
I probably don't think he had a speech prepared and he was just doing it off the cuff. But I just don't think optically it was a very good look.
Fair. And Todd, MVP?
Yeah, Sly for me as well.
I love how you call him Sly. It's like you're like best pals with him. I love it.
That's his name.
For a while.
Yeah. And finally, ratings then. For me, it was 4.5. Collie?
5 for me.
Todd?
5 for me as well.
What have I done? Okay, well, that is the end of the first part of our Ryan Coogler extravaganza. The second part will be coming up very soon. If you're watching this, this one's out on the Tuesday, and then part 2 will be out on the Thursday. But guys, again, if you're watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe, like, comment below, let us know what you thought about Sly's performance and if he should have won the Oscar. And if you're listening on Spotify, of course, remember to follow and give us a 5 stars because we are a 5-star worthy podcast. But guys, thank you so much for listening, watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Cheers, everyone.